Christians often attack the morality of Islam. They say Muhammad promoted child marriage, whereas Jesus believes women should only be married when they reach 18. But this Christian perspective is contradicted by the Bible. Nowhere in the Bible does Jesus specify a minimum age for marriage. Jesus had no problem with child marriage. Thomas Aquinas says that sex depends on maturity, which he says happens at 12 years old for girls.
You kept saying that we condemn child marriage. Absolutely. Ezekiel 16, verses 6 to 8, 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 36, the Didache in chapter 2, as well as the Talmud. The reason why they say 12, because that's when they assume that a woman will reach puberty. And even then they say she has to wait beyond 12. So even by their standards, you condemn Muhammad to hell. Because according to that very standard, Muhammad mounted a 9-year-old. He was 54.
We wanted to be courteous and not bring this stuff up. But when Sam gets down and dirty and starts insulting the Prophet Muhammad, then we have to respond in kind. We have to insult Sam and point out his vile history and the kinds of filth that he puts on his channel. So we're just playing fair. You wanted to go down and dirty and use filthy language, then we're going to bring up the fact that a plumber basically stole your wife and you had certain charges against you. That's all. That's all.
I know, Sam, you got a lot to say, so go ahead.
As far as those accusations, let's assume those accusations are true. All you're proving is that I'm a sinner, unfaithful to the teachings of Christ. But I was acting like Muhammad because Muhammad did a lot of plumbing with a lot of women other than his own wives. Because when he sanctioned the rape of married women, raping them and selling them off as chattel, that's condemned by the God of Moses in Deuteronomy 21, 10 to 14. Lord, forgive me for acting like Muhammad, because I know acting like Muhammad leads me to hell, so may have mercy.
The Bible promotes far more war, killing, and misogyny than anything in the Quran or the life of the Prophet Muhammad. And God, according to the Trinity, is also Jesus. Jesus is also pro-genocide. In Deuteronomy 20, Jesus commands Moses to attack the Canaanites and other peoples and, quote, leave nothing alive that breathes.
Yeah, I want to thank Daniel for proving that Jesus is his God, Allah. Why? Because according to the Quran, in chapter 5, verse 20 to 26, it was his Allah that ordered Moses and the Israelites to enter Canaan and wipe it out. Also, it was his Allah that ordered Saul in chapter 2, verse 246 to 251, where it was his Allah, whom he said was Jesus. So he just admitted Jesus is Allah, Muhammad's God and judge, who ordered Saul on these expeditions. And there's not a word of condemnation by his prophet saying that what Saul did to the livestock and children was an abomination to Allah. That means he's better than his God and his prophet.
Why do you incorrectly assume that the Old Testament that you have is the same thing that the prophet is referring to? Muslims never saw the Bible as fully reliable.
You just butchered the Quran like you've been butchering the Bible, but I come back to butcher you. Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah said, a group of scholars believe the Torah is uncorrupt. One of the evidences they gave is the hadith of Abu Dawood. They quoted it. They didn't question its authenticity.